As for data construction, data are often transformed. One transformation is an aggregation summing across the items sampled or created, and this can be done in many ways. For example, inflation is a top problem facing the country, and it is well known that the money supply has a relation to inflation. There are alternatives to this, however, so the Federal Reserve now has more than one type of money supply measure, with the difference being the aggregation method. At times, different measures of the same thing may produce different results. Another data transformation is creating measures of central tendencies, such as an average, the mean. In this transformation, the problem is truncation. How big or small part of the sample be used to divide into another number to get an average? And truncation can hide changes. An example is the Hobby School's previous research on the use of tasers by the Houston Police Department, HPD. An argument for taser use is it reduces physical injuries on officers and residents. HPD provided data on workers' compensation claims for us to look at the data after the tasers were deployed. However, we used an equal time period before and after tasers were deployed and found that the mean was already trending down before tasers were ever used. Therefore, the effect of tasers in reducing officer and resident injuries was not clear. In fact, we found no difference statistically between the before and after periods. This is a clear lesson of the perils of truncation. If we had used the truncation method suggested, we would have wrongly concluded that tasers were a proximate cause of the drop in officer injuries and compensation claims. How about a simple validity check? It's called face validity. This simple test is the first step in the research process. The question is, does the measure look valid on its face? Simple enough, right? Selection bias challenges and data transformation affect face validity. Two examples will demonstrate face validity. First, let's say we want to measure individual health conditions in each state. We get the data and there are differences across states. While there are no doubt differences between states, it is invalid to think that a state has somehow some magic health conditions. What is needed are measures of individuals in each state and the behaviors that affect their health. But the first clue in face validity here is you should be looking at individuals, not states, to get a reading on health. Another example is how we measure income changes. Some use measures of household income, some use the individual. If we trace income change over the last 50 years, we see far lower changes in income for households, but much larger changes for individuals. What explains the change? Households in the U.S. have grown smaller since the 1960s, and more individuals can now afford to live alone as well. Clearly, the household measure is invalid and the individual measure is superior. However, that is not to say that household measures can be used for various questions, only that for income dynamics, it is invalid.